The New York exodus is turning into a stampede. Private equity giant Apollo Global Management, headquartered in Manhattan, has decided to open a second headquarters either in, you guessed it, Florida or Texas. Sound familiar? Well, it should, because this comes right after Citadel's Ken Griffin blasted Mayor Mamdani over his push for a new luxury property tax in New York City. Griffin says his firm will now expand more aggressively in Miami. Shocking. Executives are increasingly worried that the mayor is anti-wealth, anti-business. That's his agenda, and it's turning the financial capital of the world into a hostile place to invest, hire, grow, live. It's a war on success. So he stood in front of Ken Griffin's apartment. He doxed his address. He called him out when Ken Griffin is contributing so much to the economy. When other CEOs see that, Apollo, for example, included, why would anybody want to stay here? It was the Vornado CEO, and he said that they were shocked that our young mayor would pull this stunt. And said that Zoran Mamdani should know better than to target Ken Griffin. Who's going to want to do business here?
Yeah, so Apollo paid $1.3 billion in taxes last year. Not all of that goes to New York City, of course, but it's a large number that you're losing on a headline level. What I was thinking about, though, is sort of the ripple effects of this. Who works for Apollo in Citadel? And we talk a lot about this K-shaped economy concept and who is really driving the economy. That works on a micro level, too. When you think about New York City, who takes Ubers, gets in taxis, goes out to dinner, and pays a lot of the local small businesses that are actually owned by lower income earners. It's the people that work at a Citadel and work at an Apollo. So if you drive those folks away, I wonder what the dynamics of the city turn into over time. And it's not just the overall tax revenue that you're moving away, but the city's sort of built off of the fact that you moved to New York because it's the only place where you can work in finance, you can work on Wall Street or around Wall Street these days. And that seems to be something that would also sort of shift with this as well, in that not good way.
One of the points that Ken Griffin made was that it's those folks, the high earners, they're not even using the services that they're paying for. So they don't send their kids to public school. They don't call 911 and go to the hospital. They generally don't get into skirmishes that require police to help them and everything else that we can imagine. And so you push those people out, Brian, imagine this scenario, and what? You're going to bring more people in that don't contribute as much in tax revenue, but are taking more, which is going to strain the system. So how does this math work?
Well, it doesn't work.
Right.
Of course, Marxist math doesn't work. Math doesn't exist in Marxism. It's very convenient for Marxists to not have to do math. Okay, so can I throw Griffin has every right to leave. The Apollo guys every right to leave, and I'm with him, and I get why. Totally, I endorse that. But let me ask this question, because I'm thinking about New York City and what happens here, and I'm thinking about all these rich guys, wealthy guys, contributors who've been here for a long time. They've done business. Okay, but they have let governance in this city crumble. They haven't done anything, and I'm not even saying it's their responsibility necessarily, but they have stood by while this place has become Mamdaniville, and they can leave. It's easy for them to leave, but it leaves a whole bunch of other people in the lurch. So I'm not saying don't leave, okay? You can leave. You have the right to. This is federalism in action. But I am saying, like, you were here, you had the means, you had the voice to prevent this, and you didn't, and now you're out, and I feel like if you leave, I hope you keep some presence here to fight the battle that needs to be fought so that capitalism can win. If not for you because you're gone, then for the people stuck here who can't just pick up and leave. Thought.
Was it?
Tell me I'm wrong.
Joe Lonsdale, I'll have to find it, wrote a scathing post that highlights exactly what you said. 10, 20 years ago, there were people, elite, wealthy people, that were more interested in what private school my kid was going to go to than helping reform the public schools, that were more interested in their little club or their little thing, that they weren't engaged in grassroots politics to make this city great, because this city is what made them great. And instead of giving back, they were too interested and then focused on their new social clubs to come back in and make sure that their next generation of children understood why this city is responsible for the older generation's success. And they missed that opportunity. I'll find the tweet. I also want to talk about New York, though, as well, because the governor just came out with her budget. Want to get I mean, this isn't even worth the pop quiz. It is an alarming $268 billion budget. And yes, $1.5 billion of dollars goes back to Mamdani in New York City. The population in New York is 20 million. The population in Florida estimated 23 million. Their budget, less than $120 billion. So you have a bigger population, and New York has a $270 billion budget, and Florida has a $120 billion budget, and they have 3 million more people. That just speaks to, in my opinion, everything that's wrong with this state. It is big government, it's big money, it is no more autonomy over your individual liberties. We could go on, but it's not going to change. It's ingrained in people's blood. And Brian, I think you're right. I want them to stay and fight, but they don't have to, because that's capitalism. But I wish they would have changed this 20 years ago when they had the chance.
I'm going to push back a little on that, because Stephen Roth at Vornado, they have 20 million square feet of Manhattan office space. They are the borough's largest street retailer with 2.4 million square feet. They are not rolling up the sidewalk on their operations. Their operations remain extensive. They're just moving to headquarters. And you and I both know that HQ can be 5 people and a printer. You know what I mean? It may not be as important as you think. Look, what I thought was interesting about Roth is that he went on 6 minutes on a video talking about what Mamdani did and calling Mamdani out in no uncertain terms. And everybody on this panel knows what it's like to talk for 6 minutes unscripted. It's a lot. So I find that impressive. I think these guys have given a lot to the city. If you go in, and I think I've said this before on this show, add up what they've paid in taxes, what they've done in charitable giving is through the roof. Nobody else does what the financial, what the banks do, what companies like Apollo do in terms of giving to charity. It's pretty impressive.
I agree with you. Look, I'm not saying these guys necessarily owe the city anything, but I am saying, like, which battles did they pick over the last 20 years? Did they pick the hard battles with, like, a de Blasio that eventually gave, rise to a Mamdani? Charitable giving's great, but, like, I just don't know if they picked the hard battles, because I think the social set thing matters. If you care about the social set, don't poke and prod too much, right? Because you might get ejected from polite society. I'm just saying it's a question. Everybody says, I'm out.
I think some of it was out of their control. I think the pandemic had a lot to do with turning the tide here. Even de Blasio wasn't as bad pre-pandemic as he was after. I think that, their hand is being forced now. And I hear you on the stay and fight, but as somebody who has stayed and fought now, I've said this before, I feel exhausted from fighting. And so, maybe it's not Vornado because they're so invested here. They're going to have to stay, maybe move a headquarters or whatever.
It's in their best interest.
But anybody who has the opportunity to leave will leave. And we're going to have to see what happens. And we're going to have to see how that budget adjusts as a result of it, because you can't keep spending money that you don't have. And a lot of folks are telling me that they're very worried about, municipal investments in New York and what could potentially happen. So,
Yep.
I think how worried Stephen Roth is here is very important, because Vornado owns all of that real estate in New York. If he's this concerned to talk about it for 6 minutes and go on, he's essentially telling you that he's
going to
worried.
Become public.
He's worried about his business.
Of course.
The actual real estate in New York being worth significantly less in future years. And that is a real risk to him if he's going to spend that much time talking about it, which tells you about
what
the
he
scope.
says is New York does not have a monopoly on talent.
That's right. That's absolutely right.
And I think New York thought it did for a long time.
I think
right?
until 15 years ago, thought it did.